Hi, this is Jeff Podlasek with Toad for DB2 development. Quite often, DBAs and developers are charged with rolling out new changes to their database objects. They might need to ensure their test database reflects their production environment, or they might need to take their stage changes and apply those to their production environments. Toad for DB2 has a very robust object compare feature that allows you to compare objects across databases and synchronize your changes across databases. This feature is more than a simple schema compare, as the object compare feature within Toad works with database level objects, for example, table spaces and storage groups, as well as schema-based objects. This video will demonstrate Toad for DB2's object compare feature. I have Toad up and running, and I'm connected to a DB2 LUW database. The compare feature also works for DB2 on ZOS. I have a list of tables up in my database browser, and I'm going to select several of those, right-click, and select Compare Object. And this launches the Object Compare feature, and the first thing you'll see is it's prompting you to select your target database. In this example, I'm going to use my sample as my target database, and then click Next. What you'll see now is on this Review Source Objects screen, gives you the ability to see all the objects that you're going to compare. If you want to bring over data from your source to your target, you could check these check boxes underneath the data column. On the bottom, you can see there's a bunch of additional options, such as do you want to include objects that will reference those that you originally selected, or do you want to include the dependents of those that you originally selected. So there's many options on the bottom here, such as migrating privileges or preserving target data, etc. We're going to leave these as the default and select Next. Now on this next screen, Toad allows you to define transformation rules. For example, you might have naming standards that are different between your production and test environments, and you can do name mappings here. So for example, if I wanted to change my schema to a different schema on my target, I could select that. Or if I wanted to use a different table space on my target, I could select that. And what you could do is you could come up with a very robust set of your own transformation rules and save those and then reload those. And so I have done that, and I'm going to reload my transformation rules right now. And by clicking the Load Transformation Rules. And you can see that my saved transformation rules, I have my source schema of stage maps to my target schema of prod. Same with my source and target databases. And the relational operator column right here, there's several ways you could do things. You could have a simple map, that is, we'll take the source object name and map to the target. You could use a wildcard, such as if you wanted to change objects that begin with ABC star wildcard to XYZ star, you could do that. Or you could use a regular expression, and in this case, anywhere a table name contains the text football, that text in that name will be transferred to NFL. And we'll see how this maps out in a little bit. I'm going to select Next here, and what Toad is doing, it's fetching objects from the source, fetching objects from the target, and does the comparison, and then presents this comparison report. And this report I actually have it grouped by object type. You can see all the objects are listed on the top here. If you select an object in the grid, the bottom display will show you the detailed comparisons or the detailed differences of those objects. In the result column, the icons actually represent, this one represents that there's changes. An equal sign means that the tables are equal both on the source and target. And a green arrow pointing to the right means it's a source only type of object. And so if you select an object that's different, again, you can see the differences that are highlighted below. And you can notice that we've already provided the mappings here. If you wanted to see the unmapped source, that is the names that prior to the name change via the transformation rules, you could click this button and it's going to highlight the source as it is on the source without the mapping. So it gives you a visual representation of how your mappings have been applied, and by using this selection here, you can only see the things that matter, the changes that matter for you. There's a bunch of buttons up on top, one of which is this set here of filter buttons. So if you only wanted to display the object that has changes, you could only depress this button. If you only wanted to show the objects that were equal, you could depress this button. So for example, I've got a couple of objects that are the same on my source and my target. We'll typically show all of them there. Now Toad also comes up with a robust set of advanced compare options. There are many attributes that may differ between your production environment and your test environment. You might want to discard those or ignore those during our comparison process. So we give you the ability to do that just by checking things. So if you wanted to ignore the compression, a lot of people don't compress their small test data, you could select to do that. Or if you wanted to ignore data capture differences for tables, or if you wanted to ignore table organizational differences, you could do that here. It's a very robust set of advanced features during comparison. Another thing to note is that we recently added the feature of a detailed comparison reports. And so if you check this button up on top now, Toad is actually going to display in detail what the differences are. So you don't have to necessarily view the differences in this side-by-side comparison down here. You could be notified of those and read those with these top detailed controls. So for example, this is telling me that there's 10 columns, both in the source and the target, and the differences here are in the conference column has a different default, and the division column has a different precision or length. And so you could go through and just basically view these comparisons up on top if you wish, and just drill down and find the differences. For example, this is telling you that row compression is used in the source and not in the target. So it's a very handy feature to allow you to easily identify the differences. And if you want to, you could generate a report, and this will generate a PDF report with the comparisons, and the PDF will basically give you the summary, what your source, what your target is, any transformation rules that you've defined, and then the summary of changes, you know, how many are equal, how many are different. And then with the not equal, it gives you the detailed description, much like the previous screen that we showed. It shows you in detail, in text, what the differences are between those objects. If you're happy with that, you could go ahead and send the script to an editor, and this is your sync script. So this will be applied and run at your target. It will synchronize all your target tables and objects to make them just like your source. So that's one example of running the object compare. I'm going to shut this down. And Toad also offers a way of just invoking an object compare by using this large button on the toolbar, and that opens up a blank compare object project. And again, I'm going to keep the target the same. But now what you can do is you could use an object explorer, and you could drag objects over. If you wanted to simulate a schema compare, what you would do is you'd select your source schema. In this case, I have a pod S1 source schema. I'm going to drag that over to the object compare feature. And what it's doing now is it's fetching all the schema-based objects that are qualified by pod S, and allows me to easily walk through. And if I want to map that to a specific target schema, I could select the schema that's on the target right here with Toad, and just click next. And you can see that Toad's fetching the source and target information, and again shows you the comparisons in detail, and it very easily and quickly allows you to generate a synchronization script to sync up the target to be like the source. So as you can see, the object compare feature in Toad is very powerful, and we believe you will find this very useful.